We do not often get data about the Asia Pacific holiday rental market. Yet, today, this is what we're getting in this video, thanks to my guest, Daniel Rouquette. He's the general manager of Villa Finder, an agency that's spanning 23 markets across Asia Pacific. We'll talk about the contrast between a market like Bali slumping by 66% year over year and Sydney growing by 13%. We'll talk about supply. What are homeowners doing? Why are some adding supply while others are removing their properties? And finally, we'll be talking about how you can pivot to capture more domestic travel when you have luxury villas. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Dear Rentals Club members, today I'm sitting with Daniel Rouquette. He's a general manager of Villa Finder. Villa Finder is a pretty big company when it comes to luxury vacation rentals in the Asia Pacific region. What's very interesting with Daniel, that his company year after year publishes a great report on the Asia Pacific market for luxury villas. And together we're going to talk about the 2021 trends. So for a lot of details, just go to our website where we have the whole article based on the data that they can share with us. But I really wanted to have a quick talk with Daniel to talk about the three big trends we've noticed. But without further ado, Daniel, hey, welcome. How are you?
I'm very good, Thibault. It's a little bit late here in Singapore, but happy to talk to you and share the data that we have.
Really appreciate you taking the time. So let's just dive right straight into it. So your report says that overall the market has gone down by 38% in Asia Pacific. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your company is present in a lot of markets there. So maybe you'll be able to explain where you're present. But I think two of the biggest markets here are Sydney in Australia and Bali in Indonesia. They are traditionally very big markets, but they have really contrasted fates in 2020 and 2021. Would you mind explaining us what happened in these two markets?
Yes, of course. So the year started in a very strange way and unexpected, obviously, for everyone. At the beginning of the year, Australia was of 2020. Australia was ravaged by fires, forest fires. And tourism in Australia was in crisis. Then the pandemic came and suddenly borders closed and the trend reversed. So at the end of the day, big destinations like Bali has always been the largest destination for villa rental in the region, had to shut down. And after 3 months of getting regular arrivals, we saw almost no arrivals for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, Australia, obviously Australian being locked home, there were a lot of lockdowns and the country was affected. But when they were able to travel, they traveled domestically. So the market boomed because Australians were not able to travel internationally. So it's really a big contrast here because Bali has always been the leader. And this year, our study finds that Sydney finally became a larger market than Bali after years of trailing second. So it's a big shift and completely unexpected if you were looking at this early 2020 when forest fires were ravaging Australia. So very interesting, surprising trend.
Yeah, it's really a tale of two markets, right? Sydney grew by 13%, Bali shrunk by 66%. With someone who's got a property in Bali here, I can tell you it's not that easy. So but Villa Finder is present in how many markets in Asia Pacific?
We're present in every single country in Asia Pacific, bar some of the very, very small ones, of course. But all the big markets we are present. We've really seen every single market go down except for Australia and New Zealand, which are usually big source markets for us, but that became domestic markets. We are also present in Europe, and I think luckily enough, we decided at the beginning of 2020 to make an investment in Europe. This was a a good move, even though we did not benefit fully from the little bit of tourism that there is in Europe. But at least this year we will be able to have some business in the region, while Asia Pacific is probably going to remain very, very slow for the next year, and I would probably not hope for anything significant until middle of 2022.
On the supply side, Villa Finder works with homeowners and also property managers. And obviously this being an impact on demand, but we talk also on supply, right? So, and you've seen people removing supply, others adding supply, right? So what do you hear what do they tell you, for example, when they remove supply or where they add supply? What do you hear from homeowners?
Yeah, so homeowners in the region are mostly investors. Those are not second homes that they have had in the family for a while, like what we can see in a lot of places in Europe. Those are investors. So they are expecting this property to give them a return on investment, and suddenly there are no more tourists. So they have removed their supply from the short-term holiday rental because there are no more short-term tourists. However, they have turned those rentals mostly into monthly rentals or yearly rentals. This is why we see a lot of that supply being removed, because we focus in our study on villas and properties that are available for short-term rental. And so, yeah, there has been seen a big shift here. Obviously, that has affected also the price and the value of the market, because short-term rentals are, long-term rentals are always offered at a discount. And in destination like Australia, where there is a lot more tourism than they were before, a lot of owners who previously didn't really bother in listing their property on channels like Villa Finder or Airbnb finally decided that it was probably a good time to do so. So yeah, as you can expect, when travel goes down, then people try to find other ways to rent their property. Or in the case of Bali, we've also seen a lot of owners who just shut down their property. They can't afford to pay the staff. They can't afford to pay the maintenance, so they just shut down everything and wait for better days.
Yes, it's like ghost town, but with palm trees. It's a bit surprising, let's say. So you said people adapt as much as they can. So, and obviously domestic travel has been big, was big last year, is still big today. And let's talk about markets like, so you mentioned Australia. It's obvious people turn to Australia, and there's like a sort of a match between demand and supply, or purchasing power and property rates. How about Bali, for example? Because it must be like early 2020, talking to villa owners and telling them that the demand will be coming from local people in Indonesia, and that this is what we should be going after. This would not have been obvious. So how did people pivot to attract these local demand, for example?
Well, to be honest, I think a lot of owners miss out on the local markets. The reason being, those are completely different channels, completely different clients, and you need to relearn almost everything. So channels like Traveloka, Peggy, Ticket.com, which are pretty big in Indonesia, those villa owners are not present. And because we went through the listing process on those channels, I can tell you, it is still very manual, and it is mostly adapted for hotels and not really for villa rentals. So if you don't have this expertise and if you don't have the right contacts, you're probably going to miss out completely on this market. So it's a question of being on the right channels, and of course then it's a question of price. There is a lot of competition on the market, and travelers coming from Jakarta mostly know this, so they expect very large discounts from anywhere between 60 to 90% discounts for their stays. So those type of clients that also previously could not afford to stay in villas, the middle class of Indonesia, is now turning to villas, and they really love it. So I expect that they will continue to come even when prices rise in the future.
Yeah, maybe for special occasions, or so hopefully it has opened a door here as well. Daniel, if people want to know more about Villa Finder, what's the best way to contact you guys?
Sure. You can find us on our website at villa-finder.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Twitter, pretty much every platform out there, or reach out to me personally at daniel@villafinder.com. and we'll be able to help and offer more insights on each of the different markets here in Asia Pacific.
Perfect. Once again, Daniel, your general manager of Villa Finder, thank you so much for your time tonight, and take care.
My pleasure. Thank you, Thibault.